Birmingham, 1947. Me with my cousin Jimmy. This is me with my beautiful mom. She gave me everything. My dad, who I never met, I saw him once when I was 4 or 5 years old. I talked to him once on the phone about 10 years ago. Jimmy was more like a brother than a cousin to me, and we spent a lot of time together. This is my grandfather. It's me and Jimmy playing in the hose. And Uncle Reed, who's always more like a dad to me, all of my uncles were. And my grandmother Lottie is probably the biggest deal in my life. I loved her dearly. I miss her. This is Uncle Reed with his basketball team in Jemison. Jimmy and I usually got cowboy outfits for Christmas. Uncle Morgan, another big deal in my life. Me and Sandra at the beach. I love to visit Florida. George and Sandra live down here. And Pauline and Uncle Morgan. That's the house that I lived in Birmingham, the first house my mom bought. Me and Santa. Grandma is a younger woman. Me and Jimmy, we were close. Aunt Newt and Uncle Murray, while he was still in the Army Air Corps. Jimmy and I sharing a popsicle. Getting ready to go to church on Easter with Grandma. Aunt Newt and Aunt Jo. Another Easter shot. And 2 more cowboy outfits. Jimmy and I were snappy dressers. And then Murray Jr. came along, another cousin in the act. Another trip to Florida, Cypress Gardens with Grandma. And another cowboy outfit, 2 guns. Aunt Newt and Uncle Morgan, me in Plant Park. Me and Jimmy in the only fishing trip I ever went on. Jimmy and I at Cypress Gardens. With Aunt Pauline and Uncle Morgan, Sandra and George, Aunt Pauline taught me to swim. My beautiful cousin Lynn with Uncle Reed and Aunt Wilma. This is my tap dancing class at Hyde Park. We'd moved to Florida by then. It was my idea. 6-year-old made the decision. This was the house that my mom bought, and that's me and my grandmother sitting in the carport. This is her taking care of her yard. It was beautiful. Palmacia Theater was down the street, and I spent an awful lot of time there. Another big influence was the fair, and Harlem and Havana changed everything for me. Ernie Lee, hillbilly music on the television in Tampa. Rock and roll was starting to be the big thing for me. So was wrestling. Got to meet the King, spend some time with him. He was an unbelievable person. This is my mother with Elvis. It's my grandmother crying her eyes out and Elvis laughing. That's my mom with him. Walt Radio brought us all the rock and roll in Tampa. Cars started to become a big thing. This was one of my first cars, a Rupture Duck, 1930 Ford. Downtown was lively and it was hopping, and I would go down whenever I had the money to go to the movie. I love downtown Tampa. I still do. This was my first band, the Ray-Bons, with Warren Novak and Steve Newman. Don Smith's on the drums. Barbara Hatfield, she's still a friend of mine, one of my first girlfriends. Me in Love. 2 girls gave her to me. We called her Poochie, and she was a good girl. My 32 Ford, my last hot rod, my best one. My mother and my grandmother, I was finally getting married. Teresa was a wonderful wife, and she's a beautiful person. That's Teresa and Murray. It's my friend Spencer getting his hair trimmed by me. Good luck. Soul Trippers. Tough guys, huh? Beginning of a beer belly, and I'm still working on it. Me in my underwear showing off for some crowd somewhere. I asked Tiny Tim for a picture. This is what he brought me. New York in the snow. was me and Wolfgang. He was wild, he was a good boy. Me and Poochie again. It's Evan the Performing Dog, and Miss Gary Dobbins. This was one version of Duck Butter. Spencer and Duggan was us on stage with Gene Vincent. Big thrill for me. First time I ever played a show with Chuck Berry. Gene Vincent again. My stepdaughter Dina and my second wife Jane. Saw them yesterday. My third wife Jennifer. Haven't seen her lately. Kent and Phil Cheney with me and Ramsey Midwood on Visit to Ted.
Most people would have the good sense to give up the show.
Amanda and George over from Ireland.
Probably the saddest line that I ever wrote.
And Dawn. I hope she's doing well. Jamaica, I hear her out in the hallway. Probably the love of my life. I love her.